resolve and sure grittiness.
It starts with an attitude. We need swagger, okay? Regardless of what happens out there. Doesn't matter. Keep your swagger.
Welcome to the Five Hole Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the fantasy hockey podcast that welcomes our Canadian hockey overlords. We are your hosts tonight, Jay and Alan. This is the first show we've recorded since Foundations. So, Jay, what was your opinion of everything?
I mean, yeah, with all other Canadians, we cheered hard when, also it was Marner to McDavid past Matthews, right? Like tons of, stardom going around. But Alan, as the Canadian over here, I'm just going to douse a bit of waters. Like it was an overtime win against a team that didn't even put their best goal scorer, on the ice, didn't even dress him. Binnington stood on his head. Helly had a good game, it was an even game.
Yeah. I'm of the mindset. I don't think this replaces the Olympics or real playoff hockey, but good God, those US-Canada games were some of the best hockey I've ever watched. I was the biggest disappointment to me that the US didn't win the final was that I could not start a USA chant in the bar I was in. But let's get into the show. We're here with the weekend preview. Before we get going, plug some stuff. Thank you for everyone watching on YouTube right now. Make sure to like and subscribe. We're still trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Join us in the Discord. Over 2,700 people get in there before your league mates do. You follow us on Twitter /X, and TJ still cooking that website, FHFHockey.com. Now get into some news. Storylines. The Ryan Hartman suspension reduced from 10 games to 8. Super good news for the Wild. I'd say they are, Kaprizov, they just sort of, one of the latest things was he's going to be out a little bit longer than initially thought, which is not good for that whole team because he is the team. But are we, I don't know. The Wild supposedly has some pretty good playoff schedules in some formats, Jay. Are we, kind of hanging on to Ryan Hartman where you got him? You can't do much with him.
Yeah.
Is he someone we pick up when he comes back?
It ties right into your I guess you're going to touch on the point later, right, with Jeek, but yeah, it is a terrible thing for such hits to even occur. Let's be frank and real too. Like that was pretty disgusting for the game right before. It wasn't the game right before, it was the game immediately following the Four Nations, right? Like it was, I just couldn't believe you're watching this goonery going on. Who in the world do we have as other options to suggest to folks?
We don't. Good guy.
Oh, God.
We'll get into that later, but there are no options. But this next headline, not so much fantasy relevant, but I know it's one of those things I like to keep my eyes on. Because it could make someone incredibly relevant very quickly or more relevant. Ville Husso, remember he was signed with Detroit, buried in the minors. He was traded to Anaheim for NHL legend future considerations. This is a very interesting trade. Comes after Gibson left a game, is kind of day-to-day, and Kelly Klang, who would be the next man up in the minors, is also kind of day-to-day. He carried a $5 million cap hit. Detroit retains none of it. To me, this indicates Detroit's cooking something. That's a lot of cap space to clear.
Yeah, I'd have to dig up their cap friendly as well, right? Like, did you have it off? Not cap friendly. Geez, their Puckpedia. Oh man.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how much the trade deadline space they have, but $5 million, that's no chump change. It sounds like they're working on something.
I mean, I'm gonna say this as well, right? Like that team, That's their sixth? No, sorry, second win in a row, but they're 8-1 in their last 10. Kind of funny to see the differences. Like you have Tampa and Detroit separated by 4 points, and Detroit's got -10 goal difference. Tampa's got a +50 going on here. Just 60 goals difference, like, a 60 goal gap between the two teams separated by 4 points. I think Detroit, if they're honest with themselves, and it looks like they are, they're not going to go far enough with this team just running hot as is, right? Like
I think they just lost, what was it, Kopp or whoever was centering that second line. I didn't add it because to me it didn't seem nearly as fantasy relevant for most leagues. They lost someone.
Is it Rasmussen?
No,
Rasmussen. Oh yeah. Sorry. Kopp went on IR as well.
It was Kopp. Okay.
Yeah, Kopp went on IR.
Yeah, I think it was like 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 6 months, something crazy. Like they need to make a move, and there we go. This frees up the cap space for that. So injuries. Yep, another more hits keep coming for the Wild. Joel Eriksson-Ek to IR, so he will miss at least 7 days after being injured in practice. Good God, this team is so shallow. Like I was looking at the lines, and once you get past Boldy, Rossi, Zook, like it's dry.
And I think the issue too is there's a fair amount of injury, right? Like the injuries roll consistently to the point where there's not like, is Dumba still on the team somewhere, or am I thinking?
No, Dumba is Dallas this season.
Brodin, yeah, he's moved. Sorry, Brodin. Oh man, there's a ton of guys that constantly are rotating through the hurt locker, right? Like Bogosian comes to mind, Spurgeon comes to mind. It's just the team finds it really. Oh, Alan, what was that quote about the Four Nations USA medical team? And then supposedly it's entirely just Minnesota Wild medical staff.
Oh, so God, no wonder why so many things got messed up. Wow.
Like they joked about it, but it's actually frightening to consider if there is a correlation between, like, what's that one? Fool me once, fool jokes on me.
Yeah, shame on you. Fool me twice, won't get fooled again.
But there's something to be said, right? This is a strong team. Fourth. Let me look at the standings. Third in the West, fourth in the West, third in the West, third in the Central. They're obviously like a strong contending team with, a strong enough rotating supporting cast. But why in the world can't they all why can't they be competing for the division? It's probably because they can't stay healthy. And
right. Anyways. Oh God. Yeah.
Anyways.
So next up, Adam Fox, man, left last night's game with an upper body injury. There is no real timeline on this one. It doesn't sound like it's going to be season ending, but there could be some term on this one. Keandre Miller left last night's game too. Unfortunately, there wasn't a power play after Adam Fox left the game, so we have no idea who might quarterback that power play. If it seems like Fox is out any sort of long term, but absolutely something to keep an eye on. It feels like since the JT Miller trade, even slightly before the JT Miller trade, the Rangers were kind of waking up. So I definitely a guy, if you need some help this time of the season, it might be a guy that's readily available that can help you out.
Braden Schneider is looking like the guy on.
Yeah, would it be Schneider, Lindgren?
Lindgren and Schneider are projected currently to be the D1 pairing. And then Schneider was the PP2, so I'd assume he
so it sounds like maybe keep an eye on Braden Schneider.
Braden Schneider, yeah.
Okay.
Braden Schneider without the Y. But the Rangers have another issue, right? Which is that aren't they the teams that have tons of forwards? Are they going to run that shitty 5 forward?
No, I hope not. Even Toronto has given up on that finally. I could see it happening, but I hope it doesn't. I'm just looking at the names off the top, right? And you're going, there's Tro, Miller, Panarin, Zibanejad, Lafreniere. Call me a spade, Alan, but do you not foresee,
Coach being like, Schneider.
They could try it for one power play and then immediately we got to throw a defenseman in there. Yeah, so it sounds like Schneider's the guy to keep an eye on. Roman Josi being evaluated after a hit in last night's game. Considered day-to-day. I don't think we saw any practice lines, but I would imagine Brady Shea is probably next man up. But this team is just having trouble scoring. I don't even know if I want whoever's on that power play, Jay. I don't know if you agree or feel differently.
What? This sounds so toxic, Alan, but genuinely, what in the world are the Nashville Predators playing for?
Yeah, the lottery at this point.
But are they close? I think San Jose's got a lock. So if there's, I don't know.
Oh, remember, you can be last in the league, but that doesn't guarantee first overall. So we'll see. Sucks for Yossi owners, but I'm not interested in whatever defenseman's going to run that power play.
Do you think there's risk of shutdown at this stage in the season?
Would have got about a month and a half left in the season. If it's bad enough, it wouldn't surprise me.
Because give the guy an extra bit of a runway leg room.
Yeah, because like you said, what are they playing for?
You're on this inverted clip as well, right? Where Josi, God, how old is Josi again? Yossi's not like old, right? Like Yossi's still.
He's probably peak defenseman, so he's probably about 30.
He's 34. He's 34.
30.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So realistically speaking, in terms of defenseman, which I think is a position, is positioning, obviously staying in lanes, but getting your stick in the way, just it ages in a way that it doesn't, I guess technically maybe the goalie position might be the best in terms of aging, but defenseman can age pretty well as well. Yeah. You still want to keep his prime years. You don't want him blocking a puck and getting severely injured for to make sure they get
for
to
nothing.
50.
Yeah,
like 59 points or something. Like, who cares? But you want to retain the guy, and anyways.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, yeah. I don't think the next man's up's fancy relevant there. And then this one came in right before the show. Drew Doughty will not play tonight, day-to-day with a lower body injury, which sucks because it seemed like the Four Nations was kind of like his training camp, and I think one or two games since Four Nations he was killing it. Definitely worth the hold if he had held him this long, but hopefully he comes right back. But returns. Noah Dobson looking to return tomorrow. However, the plot thickens. It looks like Tony DeAngelo is still practicing on power play 1, even though that entire time he never scored a power play points. Again, with Barzal out for who knows how long, I'm not super interested in, at least for points leagues, like whoever quarterbacks that unit.
Dude, I was seeing that leg in protractor form. I am astounded at modern medicine, or in the power of his cartilage in the knees, if he's able to return this quickly. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then probably a much more fantasy relevant return. Valerie Nichushkin expected to return tonight. Early lines, however, it looks like he'll be line 2 power play 2. Gross. Because I think that was with, was it Parsonen and Mittelstadt? Two guys who are not quite as fantasy relevant.
But
I do see a road to him getting back on power play 1.
Who's he got to unseat? I don't think he's unseating. Is it true?
Drouin or Lehkonen to get on power play 1?
I think it's Lecky right now. This one was posed to me, and I don't think it bodes well for fantasy as opposed to bodes well for the Avalanche, but I do think, would it not be more beneficial if Natchez can really take off, for Natchez to be able to be on line 2 and drive line 2? Which
don't you put that evil on me? Nope. I held Natchez all season, and this is my reward. Don't put that evil on me. He needs to be moved with McKinnon. Even better if you just stack that top line of Nichushkin, McKinnon, Natchez.
Truly, the action solely considering the Colorado Avalanche's chances of winning. Oh man, but yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's really heavy at the top. That's the only issue with the Avalanche right now, right? Like you put it Lecky or Natchez, McKinnon. no matter which way you slice it or splice it, you have 4 guys that are like fantasy dogs, basically. And then you really hope your guy isn't the odd man out on another line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, again, that team's always been very shallow in my mind. Yeah, so actually before we get into the segment that's not the mailbag, Mr. Ho Travels got a pretty good question here. Trade deadline coming up. Is there anyone specifically you're targeting if they get traded? His examples are Besser, Nelson, and Seth Jones. Honestly, even though he may not have the best playoff schedule, I did target JT Miller for myself, and he got traded. But I don't know. It depends on the destination. Like Brock Nelson, I don't think he gets traded and it gets a top 6 role. I feel like he's more a guy that he's the rule. Brock Nelson would go somewhere and be like the 3C shutdown guy. No one fantasy relevant. Seth Jones, he says he wants to go to a contender, but I feel like any contender is not going to have it. They're not going to need a power play quarterback. So he would lose that value. But Besser, I don't know. Depends on where he goes. Like I know I've heard him linked to Columbus. I know I personally wouldn't mind if he ended up in Tampa because we could really use a middle 6 winger. I would say right now there really isn't anyone I'm personally targeting. I was keeping a very close eye on Gibson because I had heard speculation that maybe Edmonton, after losing 4 in a row now, maybe they do trade for that goalie after all. Whether it's Gibson or someone else, I don't know. Can you think of anyone, Jay?
Oh, man. Like, I was zeroing in on Besser, Nelson, and Jones. And I think, Alan, you hit the nail on the head with Nelson. Just, in terms of he's not going to be in a better spot. Seth Jones is an interesting one because immediately I started, like, combing through all those different teams and trying to think of, like, a team that, he could slot in. Minnesota maybe is a team I'm thinking of where maybe there isn't like a comp. Like if you slotted Seth Jones, you'd like 1-to-1 apples to apples and be like, maybe we'll give Seth a shot. But yeah,
that's I mean, and shoot, it's Faber's not really been doing anything at that power play. Maybe Seth Jones can, even though we've always said it seems like Minnesota doesn't utilize their defensemen really as far as touching the puck.
It's probably a system issue for sure in terms of the power play QB.
But of those 3 specifically, I just feel like Besser was the only one who could have an improved situation.
Well, I was looking at the other guys, and so like the Leafs, for example, are famous for probably not having a very effective power play 1 guy either. But then the issue with the Leafs is probably like that's the cap.
How do they fit the cap? Yeah, they'd have to cap in, cap out.
There are a couple of teams that are kind of interesting. I've thought about Florida. I'd have to check Florida's cap as well, right? But then,
yes, I did hear that was an interesting, like, potential destination for Jones.
IR, right? They got the guys on IR too. Like, if Matthew Tkachuk does not come back, that is, Lord, how much was he on? But like, whatever it is, it might even be a 1-to-1 seamless, like plug and play, right?
And then I believe I heard Ekblad was UFA after the season, so it's just like they just hang on to Jones and let Ekblad go to free agency.
Jones is intriguing because truthfully, I think everyone latches on to Jones, including me, because of that. That those like COVID seasons or pre-COVID seasons where he played like for Columbus and just played like an exorbitant number of minutes. And you're like, wow, this guy can just absorb all the minutes and do all the stuff. And I don't know if like Columbus burned all his legs. And then ever since he's kind of not, or it could be,
I feel like I would say it's mental fatigue. I mean, you play on a dumpster team, it's got to wear on you mentally. But you said Columbus. How funny would that be? Seth Jones back to Columbus. They got the cap space.
They definitely can sign the guy, and they're actually, oh Lord, like, because back then he was the top dog, and Werenski was the up and comer. And now it's almost like, Werenski's the top dog and he might be like, the grizzled vet that comes back offering some like solid value. Oh, but Alan, even when I say that out loud, he's probably going to get power play 2 if he comes.
Yeah. Werenski is just that damn good this season.
He's amazing, yeah.
It sucks. It's because it's a small market. You got to call him a dark horse for Norris.
Yeah. Like wasn't the stat like if he didn't get injured, he was projected to even like continue outpacing Makar at a certain point, right? Like he was very, very close, not even close to the top. I think he was the top defenseman. But I mean, like in terms of fantasy relevance, I think Columbus is a good example of like, haha, maybe. But then, at the same time, Columbus would not be a great destination for any Seth Jones holders with
and that's sort of to kind of sum it up before we move on. Most of the time when guys move at the trade deadline to a better team, their deployment worsens. So there's no one I can think of at this point, like trade bait wise, even guys like Braden Shen. Luke Shen's not really fantasy relevant for like most leagues. There really aren't guys that move to a better team who also get better fantasy wise. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, like who else? I'm like even clicking around, right? Like just to check who like trade board is like, like targeting and whatnot. Like Ricky Rax is one of the guys thrown around, and I'm like,
again, that's man, I would love if Tampa traded for him again, middle 6 winger. It'd be great.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I think we pretty much nailed all the different guys that are, relevant in terms of possible trade value. Like, Frank, even obscure ones, John Gibson and Braden Shen, you've already tackled Allen. Whatever. Yeah, you're probably
and Shen, you're not gonna maybe you put middle 6, like kind of where he is on St. Louis, but I don't think he goes to a team and gets like top line, top power play.
Gibson would be crazy if he actually went to the Oilers. I will say Gibson is probably one of the of all,
and that's what kind of sucks because it's like, how do you play that out? Because if Gibson goes somewhere, he's not going to want to be in a tandem situation. He's going to want to be the guy.
Sure. I could actually
feel like Skinner makes too much money.
I could see Gibson being willing to tandem if it's like, like a not near guaranteed, but like pretty much guaranteed, like contending deep into, conference finals and stuff. Like, Gibson's not won yet, has he? I don't think so. No,
I don't think so.
I think Gibson's probably chasing. He's cup chasing at this point as well, right? If he's going to be switched to a contender, like if he can't backstop his way to a ring, then at least he can, ride the coattails to a ring, you'd assume.
But moving on. So in lieu of mailbag this week, I thought it was worth making space for discussing some of these injuries coming out of Four Nations. Some major names out there, and these first two, they're kind of related, so we'll start there. Shea Theodore out for weeks. He broke his ankle or something crazy. He's out for a while. By God, is that LTIR music? And then Charlie McAvoy, which, we were joking about the medical staff for Team USA. Apparently it was something goofed, and an injury that he sustained there got infected. And there's no timeline for him right now. So we got these great power play 1 QBs that, you're trying to replace right before playoffs. So Shea Theodore, there's actually, you might be able to next man up this one. Just go check on Noah Hannafin, 59%. It does look like he's getting power play 1. And Vegas, that's a power play I absolutely want to be part of. Charlie McAvoy, Lindholm. It sounds like he's not coming back this season, so we don't have to worry about him. But Mason Lohrei, 9%, surprisingly, because it seems like he was taking that power play in Boston. McAvoy came back for a little bit. Four Nations happened. So now it looks like he is getting that. And in the 2 games since Four Nations, Lohrei's got 4 points in 2 games. Definitely got next man up, works there. Couple of other names I saw. Just go check on Ballman. For some reason, it's only 15 to 7% owned. And Brent Burns. It seems like the Ghost Bears worn out his welcome on that power play 1. So they've been giving Burns that power play, I think even right before Four Nations, so it's kind of slid under the radar. I don't know any of those other defenseman you think of, Jay? I mean, that may not give you exact value, but similar deployment.
Yeah, I think Wallman at whatever percentage is disgustingly nuts. Like, I mean, mind you, at the same time, his team is.
I mean, yeah, they got a little worse trading away Granlund.
Yeah,
but most of those pieces are still there.
But it just means there's more time where he can get blocks because they're not gonna have the puck. The one that does, I think, show further sneaky value would be what's his name? Sorry, I'm finding him on the Golden Knights. Yeah, Braden McNabb. Because what happens is with Shea Theodore out, everyone gets slotted up a little chunk, right? And so the minutes and even the deployment might not necessarily change for McNabb. He might still only get D3, but it's more so the deployment and minutes that follow, I guess, the increased deployment would definitely be an up for him. I'm even looking now, and you just like glance around, like this guy, what's he running with? He's got almost 100 hits. He's got 125 blocks so far. Yeah, he's just, like in terms of value as a D with Perifs, obviously with that caveat, I think Braden McNabb and like frick, he's 25% owned. Like it's a cascading scale, right? So there's Pietrangelo, Hannafin, McNabb. I think those defensemen are valuable in offering, I guess, like separate setups. So Hannafin is the highest ceiling. Pietrangelo is probably like
good category coverage.
Right. Name recognition.
If anything, he may see more minutes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. He's the D1. I guess it's kind of funny because they have Pietrangelo with the D1 power play 2 and Noah Hannafin with the D2 power play 1. So they must be, I guess, inverting the defensive and offensive responsibilities. But yeah, McNabb is going to be definitely vacuuming up value, I guess, for you as a manager, and he's probably more available because I think Pietrangelo, unfortunately, 76%, he's gone. And I think if Hannafin, unfortunately, someone's already jumped on that wagon, then I think McNabb is like a tasty consolation, so to speak.
Yeah, especially in Cats leagues.
For sure.
And then these next two are literally related. Both Tkachuk brothers are in some kind of weird limbo coming out of Four Nations. But Matthew Tkachuk, that line 2 in Florida is now Samoskevich, Bennett, Aaron Rodriguez. Samoskevich is now up to power play 1. He's got 2 goals in 3 games. I mean, I don't think I mean, that's good. That's a good stream, but I don't know, Jay. I don't know if Samoskevich is really he is not going to give you the true value that you were getting from Matthew Tkachuk beforehand.
I'm just so used
do we
to
think we look at Samoskevich, or are we looking elsewhere for value?
I'm just so used to memeing on Samoskevich, like who is this guy sort of thing, and then now he's like, seriously got potential runway to do some damage, especially on a Florida team that would be needing and looking to secure the Atlantic Division, right?
Yeah, that East is tight.
I am looking around
even in the division.
Yes. I'm just looking because he's on the cusp, right? He's on the cusp of being top 6 and top 9. I guess he just breaks into top 6 with the injury because you're going what? Bennett, Reinhart, Barkov, Verhaeghe, and then the last one is probably Lindell Rodriguez, and that's your 6. And then Samoskevich is the 6 and 7 that like rotates in and out. I just think there's such a gap between the Barkov centering your line and
Sam Bennett.
Okay,
when he's healthy.
Right. Sorry, yeah, actually, Bennett is Bennett's got a high ceiling and he's got a lower floor for sure. But I think there's a huge gap between a Bennett or a Lundell centering your line. And I think that issue is more where Samoskevich is going to have issues where his 2%, what's his ownership rate? Like it's 1%.
Oh, Samoskevich, it's like less than 1%.
1%. So his 1% ownership rate, that's huge if you get outsized like 53% access, 53% ownership access to Sam Bennett. That's amazing. If instead you're getting, Anton Lundell access, I'm like, frick, just go elsewhere. There's got to be other FAs.
And then Brady, it looks like Gaudette moves up to power play 1. David Perron on line 2. I was kind of optimistic about him. I thought power play merchant, he'd maybe do something. Doesn't really seem like he's done anything since he came back. I don't know. I think this is maybe where we look elsewhere, and I think a good look is Boone Jenner. He did kind of sneak back after the Four Nations. He's 21% owned. However, he is line 2 with Cole Sillinger and Ken Johnson, power play 2, but in a pinch, I mean, I could see he's definitely got a path to power play 1, barring injury. But yeah, I don't know if you agree, Jay. I don't think I look to the Sens to replace Brady Tkachuk.
No, definitely not. Especially when you're looking at that injury list too. Like, I forget, just clicked out of them. But I think to my memory, it was so like basically it seemed like that entire center spine was either
and their center depth is shot right now.
It's gone.
Yeah, Norris out. Oh my gosh, who else?
Pinto is out.
Pinto's out. Yes,
Pinto was out.
So they got Timmy Stu centering line 1, and then Ridley Grieg centering line 2. Which, hey, that's Stu can do that, but yeah, I don't think I look to the Sens to replace Brady.
I mean, the other one is Boone Jenner is like, was his value previously because of the minutes? I'm trying to remember. He was definitely line 1.
So yeah, his value before the season came from Columbus really having no other options, but now they got just a Dragons horde of young talent. Man, they don't really need him to play line 1. I mean, the top line with Fantilli, Marchenko, and Voronkov's cooking. Why disrupt that?
Yeah,
especially whenever Monahan comes back. Why,
mess it up?
I mean, you get Monahan back. I could see a world where Boone Jenner now is third line, maybe where he should be, and he's a really good shutdown center. Wow, Columbus having depth.
It's kind of a weird thing to say out loud, yeah. And definitely not something I expected going into the season either. The nutty part is just anyone considering Brock Nelson should really look at Boone Jenner, because those two guys have weirdly correlating parallels of, guys who are, probably put in positions where they can succeed in their current forms. But if the Islanders had a whole glut of centers and wingers popping up all of a sudden, could you not see a world where Nelson kind of slides down and continues to, outproduce his value, so to speak, as, a second or third, line center?
And even worse if he gets traded.
Right. Yeah. So that's the Nelson setup. And I think Jenner is kind of like this, they're not obviously identical players in ways, but like that's the sort of setup where Jenner, he's producing, right? He's got a point every game he's played, hasn't he?
Maybe.
Well, he's played 2 games. He's got a 60
point per game pace.
Point per game pace all the way through. But yeah, like he's, line 2, power play 2, and definitely got room to slide down further if Monahan pops back, right? Like let's say they make the playoffs.
But, he's got a game 1. Pretty good chance of getting you some of those periffs that you were missing from Brady. But with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the weekend preview. Best schedules. There's only one team with the Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and we were kind of lamenting on them earlier. Minnesota. And their schedule is at Utah, at Colorado versus Boston. So yeah, made even worse by that schedule. For streamers, I mean, you could just go check on Zuccarello. He's 54% owned, but he only has 1 point in his last 9 games. I personally, where I had him in a 12 team, I dropped him just because he wasn't doing anything. I understand that Minnesota has that great playoff schedule in a lot of formats, but why, why play a guy that's pretty much getting me zeros when I can use that as my stream spot? Marco Rossi, surprisingly, 42%. He's part of that top line, probably the only line that can actually do anything right now. I don't know. I think Brock Faber's still super highly in, but looks like he's back on power play 1. Other than category coverage, Jay, is there anyone we should look at here?
Shoot, man, I was just gonna mention the category coverage, folks, but yeah, no, I think Like aside
Spurgeon
from
for
Revere,
riffs.
like Jake Middleton maybe might get a couple extra minutes. He's
go.
31% owned. The big guy I was surprised with category coverage is 186 hits. That's basically 3 hits a night. Like Marcus Foligno, he's dual wing eligible, but he doesn't get any power play time. So he's really only if you are in a points league that values riffs or in a cats league and you need hits.
Yeah. So our Friday teams, first up, you got Colorado. Just go check on Lehkonen, 61%, and Valerie and Chushkin somehow slipped down to 50%. Other than that, the only guy worth mentioning, I hate mentioning it every time, Jonathan Drouin is only 25% owned. He's the guy that these really good players have to actually bump off of line one power play one for some reason. Other than that, Jay, there's no one really I'm interested in. They get real shallow really quick.
I'm in so many bangers leagues, so like Parker Kelly is still relevant in mine, but yeah, like Parker Kelly is in a unique spot where like my league counts like everything, right? Like shots, hits, face-offs, blocks. Like he does. Parker Kelly seems to do everything that most normal leagues just don't count. So if you're in a huge riffs league, then Parker Kelly, even at centering line 4, boom, like.
I'm trying to think who's that young piece that they traded for. It's not Parsonen. I thought Parsonen went to the Pens.
You're not talking about not like Miles Wood or anything like that, no?
No.
Ivan? No. Kivirana?
Oh my gosh.
Middlestat? No.
No, not Middlestat. Hold on.
Frig. Low rise available in all leagues.
Yeah, 9% owned. Yeah, he's going to be available in most places. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll have to check because Boston is in a unique spot, right? Like that team seems to be slumping at the wrong time in the season right now as well.
Yeah, maybe it was Kiviranta.
Kivirana, yeah.
But yeah, okay, so there we go. We got, based on warm-ups. So yeah, our top 6 is Lehkonen, McKinnon, Natchez, and then Drouin, Middlestat, Nichushkin. Yeah, Nichushkin's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting.
It's the curse, man. I'm telling you, they got 4 bona fide fantasy drivers, and then if they stack 3 on one line, you're stuck with this one dude that's like, it's like, anyways. Brutal.
Yeah. So next up, LA. Probably not a bad team to stream from. You got Quentin Byfield, 43%. Alex Laferriere, 23%. Warren Fogle, McLovin, 10%. I know he's popping off a little bit lately. I agree with Armin. If Drouin loses power play 1, like punt him, I don't know, like something Armin. Very puntable. I don't know. LA has a nice little team to stream from. And then a couple of these teams on Friday, they also play Sunday. You got Dallas, New York Rangers, and Toronto. Dallas, Mason Marchment, I'm surprised he isn't more highly owned, considering Dallas, I think in most formats, has a really good playoff schedule. He is 30%. Line 2, power play 2.
He was hurt
he's on the line. Yes, I think that's what tanked his value. But he's on the line with Duchesne and Granlund right now. Pretty good line mates there.
But I would say too, weirdly, would you not say as the value of Marchment is underrated, the value now of Granlund is over? Like
yes,
his ownership.
Yeah. He's not getting. Obviously, he is. There we go. He is like what normally happens in a trade. Like his deployment, not as good. He's not. They're not relying on him to carry the team.
I'm gonna have to look at that schedule, Alan. But my first impression wasn't Dallas having like a rather mediocre playoff schedule?
I thought I remember that we'd been preaching for a while that Dallas had maybe it depends on your format, but right. Dallas had one of the better schedules in the second half of the season. And then just go check on Jamie Benn, power play merchant. Always good for clutch stuff. New York Rangers, just go check on Laugh, 58% owned. Probably Will Cooley is the guy that's available if you want him. But keep an eye, like we said, with Fox out for as of yet an undetermined amount of time. Keep an eye on who gets that quarterback spot because I know last year when Fox went down for a while, Gustafsson was really good to have. And then Toronto, Matthew Nyes, 50% owned, so right there. I think this may change depending on when Pacioretty comes back, but keep an eye on Pontus Holmberg. Less than 1% owned, 5 points in his last 3 games, 4 of them goals. Line 2 with Tavares and Nylander, who I think didn't practice today or something funny. He's kind of day to day at the moment. Sunday. Sorry, Jay.
No, I was gonna say too, like it's a weird one with Nylander. I wonder if this came up or not. He took a really weird cheap shot. I remember in one of the games. I think it was against I don't remember if it was Finland or the States, but yeah, it was weird because he kind of just played on and did whatever. But then he's also the same guy last season where when it came to the playoffs, he would just say like, I can't play. And then like they asked him later and he was talking about like seeing like migraines and like, the world.
Oh, wow.
All that deep stuff. Like some of it seems like not like, cause anything with the brain, it gets like kind of touchy and you don't know what and when it flares and pops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like some of these things that happen when you're describing, like he just skipped practice or not skip practice, or he wasn't at practice in all those moments, kind of makes you think a little bit, right? Like when you have players with these sort of head injury histories. But Dawson, I know, Urban, I completely agree. I could not believe it. That man was doing like, protractor math classes with his knee, and he's back. The dude is just tank. Alan, I did check, by the way. I think it's if you are in semis and finals, Dallas is incredible because they have 4 games, tons of offense.
What weeks are those though?
Though March 24 and March 31. But that is week 20. Oh, shoot. Is that week 23 and 24? Oh,
I forget. I should have like a little paper next to my monitor
that says
like
week
is this,
numbers.
this is it for what's left of the season.
For sure. But yeah, Dallas, I think if you make it deep, then Dallas is definitely worthwhile. And then Granlund becomes, I guess, retention value because I don't know what the Sharks would have been. I'm going to scroll down and look.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's what keeps his ownership so high is Dallas having like a playoff schedule. I mean, you won't get – I think you'd have to have some bad stuff happen for Granlund to wind up on power play 1.
For sure.
But, real quick, actually, since we're about to touch on Boston. So Sunday teams – Boston's first up. Armin is asking if we've already talked about Laura. Is he approaching must-add territory? With McAvoy having no current timeline for a return, and it looks like Laura they're throwing him back on that power play. I would say, at 9%, he should be. I'm hoping that 9% goes up very quickly. They're still kind of in the hunt, but it sounds like they might be waving the flag as far as being buyers at deadline. But they're still competitive. They still have a shot at getting the playoffs, so they're going to do what they can to win. But yeah, I would say Laura is an ad, depending on who you would drop to pick him up.
Alan, have you seen? Wait, sorry, Armin. Armin just said when Nylander just got traded for Brett.
No,
Nylander just got traded for. I don't think that's veto worthy.
No,
I don't think that's veto worthy. No,
it's lateral, if anything, but I don't think that trade's veto worthy.
I think the ceilings and the anyways.
Otherwise for Boston, you got Elias Lindholm. He dropped quite a lot. I know he was rough start to the season. He's 33% owned. He does have 3 points in his last 4, and I think he's a lock for some good deployment there. Definitely worth the stream.
Well, the confusing part with this team is like I'm looking at these point totals, and I don't know if my eyes are deceiving me, Alan. But so Pasta's got 72 points. So doing Pasta things, basically.
Yeah, being Pasta.
And the next guy, Brad Marchand, who is, he's doing pretty well too. Not crazy like that, but 47 points in 59 games. I don't think there's anyone else that's broken 40 points. Am I seeing this right? How the hell is this team?
That sounds right.
What the hell? Boss. Anyways, who in the world is Pasta assisting? Like, how is this possible? Like, is he just on half of all Boston points, period?
I would
This
believe
looks
that.
ridiculous.
I mean, remember last season was at the Caps. It was like
Geeky. Okay.
yeah, geeky. I think he gets top line right now.
But this team is very bizarre. And I think one of the issues and concerns I would have with adding Lowry is just if you were to okay, let's look at that standing. Let's just not talk, whatever. Like, okay, there are goals, right? But they are the second lowest scoring team in the division.
But I want access to pasta though. Right?
Right. But holy shit, they are the third lowest scoring team in the entire conference. Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know, Alan. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, this is
Pasta access,
sort of
yeah,
like we've said a couple times throughout the episode tonight. Like if you need a replacement, yeah, I'd say Laura is
Yeah.
Laura's just
You want
as good as any.
access to pasta. Yeah, you want access to pasta. Yeah.
And then the two teams that play each other, Carolina and Calgary. Carolina, again, just throw a dart at the wall, see what sticks. Yeah, there's no real good way to say like, hey, this guy will be on line too come the weekend. But I think their last game they were trying to split up Aho and Rantanen. So keep an eye on that. But as far as Calgary goes, I don't know. Besides Huberto, there really isn't anyone kind of streamy worthy to me, Jay. I don't know.
Man, I'm still like digging through Carolina, and no, I think Carolina is pretty. Yeah, let's just go to Calgary.
Again, yeah, Calgary is one of the teams. Throw a dart, pick him up. He might probably get you. You could pick up Eric Stahl and Jordan Stahl, and he'll start another hot streak.
Morgan Frost? No, I don't know. Yeah, this is really. Anywho, yeah, move on.
Yeah, not Huberto. I mean, maybe Coronado, pure goal scorer. And then New Jersey and Vegas play each other. Stefan Nason, 32%. He's dropped a little bit because he used to be right around 50 for most of the season. Yeah, he's a power play one guy. I don't know. I'm kind of more interested in streaming Vegas guys out of that game. I mean, Pavel Dorofeyev, power play one. Barbashev line one, but he's really fallen off a lot this season. I don't know if it was like an injury or something. Just hasn't been as reliable.
So you're saying Dorofeyev or you're saying Barbashev?
I would say of those two, Dorofeyev is the get for me.
Yeah.
I would want that power play. Line two with Hurdle.
He just shoots a ton. So I think so long as Dorofeyev is the guy shooting, like, you're good and golden, right? Like, he's literally shot. The only person that outshoots him on the team is friggin' Jack Eichel. Right.
And I mean, I know Saad's gotten a couple goals since he came in, but I just don't stream Saad. Give me Dorofeyev. Nashville, like we're saying, this is a team that's having trouble scoring. Ryan O'Reilly, I mean, in face-off leagues, of course, 35%. I think they put him back on the top line again. I think that top line's like Forsberg, O'Reilly, Marchessault, Luke Shen.
Yeah. For Stabber's spot, I guess.
Yeah.
He took Stabber's
at one point they were stacking Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault in that top line and actually scoring. Maybe that's why they stopped scoring. But other than that, I'm not really interested in anyone off Nashville right now.
I mean, we talked about Yossi being out and Shea, like maybe, but yeah, I think their scoring woes are going to follow them for a bit.
Yeah. In Pittsburgh, they play Toronto in that Sunday game. I don't know if I really want as streams, but worth noting, Rust and Malkin are low 40s% owned. And I think Malkin's woken up a little bit recently. Bunting, good for riffs. For some strange reason, seems to get power play one time. He's 9%. But I don't know if that's like bottom tier streams for me on that Sunday.
Is Kevin Hayes getting power play one?
That wouldn't surprise me.
Oh my god, 0% ownership on. Anyways, Mike.
And then St. Louis, I forget who they're playing on that Sunday game, but Buchnevich, 41% owned. That doesn't seem right. Braden Shen, 25% owned. Does see some power play time. Good for some riffs. And then goalie
Jake
streams.
Neighbors, maybe.
Uh,
Jake Neighbors.
I think Neighbors might have been just go check territory. Maybe.
Oh, but Neighbors is now on power play 2. Oh, okay, yeah. But they still have like a fairly even split, don't they? I thought they had a fairly even split between their power plays. I mean, they have some guy called Zach.
Oh yeah, they're a team that definitely runs 50-50 split.
Yeah, they're kind of like what's the other team? It's another S team. Frick. Seattle, was it? Seattle
Seattle
that
runs
also
pretty.
a pretty even power play 1 and power play 2. I feel like I see what's his name, like Eberle. I feel like Eberle, you could have him on power play 1 or power play 2, and it's just he plays the exact same number of minutes anyway, like on the power play.
So goalie streams, we'll do Friday, Saturday. There's only one team playing. It's LA. They're at Dallas, at St. Louis. Riddick's 7% owned, available. I don't know which matchup he would get. I honestly, especially because I think Riddick plays tonight. I could see him getting the St. Louis, given that extra day of rest, which would be the Saturday game. But that's pointless because Saturday's the busy day. So I don't think there's a goalie stream there. So Saturday, Sunday, we got Boston is at Pittsburgh, at Minnesota, Carolina versus Edmonton versus Calgary. Freddie is 67% owned. I don't think you're getting either one of those goalies. Calgary is at Florida, at Carolina. Dan Villar, I thought would be a little bit more owned. He's 4%. Nashville, I'm not interested in their goalies, even against the New York Islanders, since they won't get goal support. Pittsburgh versus Boston versus Toronto. I don't want either of their goalies. St. Louis versus LA at Dallas. Joel Hofer is available. I don't know. I feel like he'd get the LA game on Saturday, though.
I do it.
Or Dallas. I don't. Yeah, they have been punching a little bit above their weight class lately. I mean,
like you're choosing. I mean, yeah, you're right, Alan. Like it might be the shiniest of the shit, so to speak. But like I believe in Hofer. He could have a good game and get out a win. I think he could do it.
I would say either Hofer or Corpy would be the winners here.
Yeah, I could see it. Mini is basically just a walking hospital ward, right? So
yeah, or even they put him against Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah,
but that would be the Saturday game. Again, not ideal to street McGooley on or anyone. But yeah, before we get to next week prep, Armin's got a question here. Laura, Geeky, Olivier, Pospisil, Neighbors are all available. He's got Cousins, Mikey Anderson, Matt Waugh, Roy, Barzal, Jenner. I can drop. He needs hits, blocks, plus, minus. He's trying to optimize for playoffs the 17th through the 6th. Man, those are all tough. Neighbors kind of sticks out to me more so for the plus minus. I feel like he's probably on the better team. I don't know what Lori does as far as hits and blocks.
I'm literally like checking. I was like, Matt Waugh. Okay.
I
guess
it might be the Capitals.
Yeah, he's the D2 on the Caps. I was like, Matt Waugh. I was like looking for him. I was like trying to remember. I was like going back to the Kings and whatnot. Man.
Yeah, I feel like Barzal's pretty droppable at this point.
You think? I don't
once he coming back.
But Alan, it's the upside. Yeah, I know.
What upside? It's the Islanders.
I would definitely say out of all those names, the name that sticks out as I don't know if I would immediately drop would be Cousins. Just Cousins and Jenner. I think have
Cousins a trade target in real hockey. Barzal is not going to get you hits and blocks.
No.
Plus minus iffy. I like Pospisil for the riffs. I like Olivier for the riffs. I don't like Olivier for plus minus because Columbus has to score like 5-6 goals to win.
The other one I would say too is if you just do a deployment check, Lorian Waugh seems to be a good deployment upgrade, right? Like you go from a D2 guy to a D. Shoot, like I know he's power play 1, but I'm trying to check if he's also D1, right? Like that would be that'd be crazy value if you could snag Lorai and give up only okay, he's D2 power play 1, right? Who's the D1 that they gave? Oh, so Zadorov. So Nikita Zadorov, and who's the other D1 that they got? Brandon Carlo. Wow. Jeez. Oh my goodness. That's the depth. Okay, so yeah, but if you get Mason Lorai and you get, you only give up a D2 Matt Waugh, like doesn't that seem like frick? Let's check Anderson, right? Like maybe
I still think Barzal's the drops here, man. Especially if you're trying to shore up those peripheral categories. Yeah, it looks like Neighbors may be good for plus minus, but he doesn't look. He looks like he might get you like a hit and a half a game, half a block.
Or you mean half a hit a game?
Yeah. Well, I think he's got 133 hits so far.
Yeah, it might be underselling.
Okay, so for a couple of hits, he's good for a couple of hits a game. Yeah, Neighbors or Lorai, probably the ads for me, and then
I definitely think
drop Barzal.
I think Waugh is like if you're gonna add the D, I wouldn't. I mean, if you don't drop Waugh, who would you be dropping? You said Barzal,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I don't know if. Yeah.
Let me check Mikey Anderson. He might be better than I think he is for like peripheral leagues. Oh my gosh,
he's one at very least.
He's getting you like one hit, one block a game.
Oh my god, Olivier has 220 hits. Holy smokes!
Yeah, he's a hit machine. I don't know how I feel about him. I don't
immediately adding him and dropping Barzal.
Okay, I can live with that.
That's crazy. And he scores every now and then. That's crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah, I might almost drop Mikey Anderson for Laura.
I might be getting Olivier right now. My goodness.
Yeah, he bangs. And it sounds like he's not going anywhere. Front office has said they're not looking to ship him, even though a lot of teams would love to have him.
For sure. He could be like a sneaky Dakota Joshua style player, eh?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's a great comparison. And then someone, if you want to kind of shore up plus minus, Ryan McDonough, league leader in plus minus, I think he is. Probably more for a plus minus hits blocks play. So again, next week prep, there are a couple teams that actually overlap into Sunday, Monday. The New York Rangers and Toronto, maybe not the most streamer friendly teams, but yeah, you could hold them for Friday, Sunday, Monday. Get those 3 games in 4 nights. Best schedules for next week. Washington has 4 games, 4 off nights. So fire up those PLDs and the real Connor McMichael, if he's still out there. And then you got LA, New York Rangers, Anaheim, and Chicago all have 4 games, 3 off nights. And then worst schedule, Utah, 2 games, 1 off night. Gross. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it for tonight. As always, if we didn't answer your questions in the chat, you can always DM us on Twitter or pop by the Discord. Even tag us there using @FHFH. We will be back this weekend with Sit Start Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Good night and good mental health, everyone.
Oh, yeah. Good night. Get hockey. We will pick you up later.
Adios, turd nuggets.